Okay, I think we can start. We have around 25 participants. So all the participants, please mute your mic. Okay. So distinguished participant, esteemed colleague, and the friends from the Asia Transparency Network. Welcome to the fifth and the final webinar in our series on adaptation reporting under the ETF of the Paris Agreement. And as we gather here today, we are filled with the sense of accomplishment and excitement. Over the, I think, past month, we have embarked on a illuminating journey together, delving deep into the intricacy of adaptation reporting. And if I go to, if I quickly do the recap of the our last webinars, the 4 webinars, we have started on the September 13th, where we gave the overview of the adaptation reporting under the UNFCCC, which was setting the stage for our exploration of the how to report adaptation and what are the guidelines as per the MPGs. And in the second webinar on the October 8th, we discussed the first 3 sections of the MPG, which covered the national circumstances, legal framework, and the adaptation priorities. The third one, which was on October 9th, and focused on the heart of the adaptation reporting. What are the action, what are the progress, and what are the monitoring and evaluation system that are and how it can be useful in the adaptation reporting. And just a few days ago, the fourth one webinar we conducted on the October 11th, where we understand the challenges, topic of loss and damage, cooperation, and sharing the good practices also throughout the countries. And I think today, now we have arrived at the pivotal moment. Today's session is conclusion, but it is also the celebration of knowledge that we have shared. And we have also privilege of hearing from the both developed and developing countries also, and offering us a wide view of adaptation reporting in practice. So what we are covering today, as we have started, and I will after my initial speech, I will hand over to the Slejana for the uh, final remarking speech on the final webinar. And then we have 2 countries. First, we will go to the developed countries, Japan, and Japan is sharing their experience in the adaptation reporting and what are the lessons they learned through along this way. And we have Miss Yuka from the Japan already here, join in this meeting. So, and then after we will hear from the Indonesia. So, Mr. Padinan from the Ministry of Environment and the Bogor Agriculture University will join, and he will share the experience of the Indonesia, and he is also the very good expert in the adaptation reporting and all the adaptation practices in the Indonesia. So, and we of course have opened the floor for the interactive discussion in between the 2 country experience and also at the end of the session, where you will have opportunity to engage directly with our presenter and each other, all the participant. So I encourage all of you to reflect on your country's journey also. Whatever new ideas spark your interest, or how can you apply this insight throughout the 5 webinars to enhance your adaptation reporting. And as I have mentioned earlier in the previous webinars, that the goal of this series has always been to prepare for the 2024 BTR submission or to build our collective capacity for the effective adaptation reporting. So today's session is the keystone and bringing together all we have learned and pointing the way forward. So your active participation has been very important in these webinars, and I request you to bring the same energy that you done in the past webinar to our final session also. Ask the question, give the suggestion, comment, share your thoughts, connect with your colleagues. All is open, so please don't hesitate. And with this, I think we can start our today's webinar. And we also have some small Mentimeter today, so which will be also conducted during this today's session. So let's make this final session count and let's learn, share, and inspire each other. So without the further delay, let's begin our session with a small initial talk by our expert presenter, Miss Lejana. Miss Lejana, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jaipal, and thank you all for participating and following our adaptation webinar series. I really hope that we help you to expand your knowledge about the adaptation reporting and actually supported with this your decision to report on adaptation through your BTR, as well as your confidence in doing so. Also, just would like to stress that we are remaining at your disposal for any kind of the requests in regards of the adaptation reporting or tracking. So you always can contact my colleague Jaipal or myself directly. So we are very, very much eager to support you in your path of adaptation reporting. So through our webinar series, we went through all technical requirements regarding adaptation reporting and through MPGs related to adaptation reporting within the BTR. But today, we are very glad to having two countries, developed and developing country, to share experience with us. So we are very much aware that, theory is one, but practice is another. A very good tool for all of you in order to see some good practices and experiences that you might be able or wish to apply in your reporting systems. So I will stop now and really looking forward to our presenters today. Thank you, Japal. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Lejana. And with this, we will start our country experience. So as I mentioned, we have Japan and Indonesia here. So first we will go through Japan, and we have already a guest from the Ministry of Environment, Miss Yuka Okajimi from the Japan. So I would request her to please take the floor and give your insight, whatever you want to share with our participant. And we are very grateful and we really appreciate your presence here in our webinars. This will be a very good for the all developing countries. We consider from the developed country we can learn too much and so many things from the not only adaptation but everything. So how Japan is tackling everything and anything that you can share will be a great experience for all the participant. So with this, I will invite Miss Yuka for the sharing of her talk.
Thank you, Jerpal. And let me first share my screen here. Can you see my screen?
Yes, very well.
Okay, thank you. And you can see you can hear my voice. Thank you. So thank you, Jerpal, Sajana, and CBGSP for organizing these variable events. And also, we are very honored to share our experience. My name is Yuka Okajima from Ministry of the Environment, Japan, and I'm presenting our adaptation policies and programs and also our reporting experience today. I just so for today's presentation consists of two parts. First is the introduction of our policies and programs, and second part is our reporting experience. And for the first part, I will use very busy slide like this for some reasons. So if you want to take a look at it in more detail, I just dropped the website, which site very similar presentation. Also, it's not fully updated, but please take a look at it on your computer. So let me start from our act. Okay. So for our policies and programs, we do have Climate Change Adaptation Act, which is dedicated to adaptation, called Climate Change Adaptation Act. And the act was first enacted in 2018 and revised in 2023. And the act aims 5 things. First is the integrated promotion of adaptation, which I will explain in more detail later. And the second one is the development of information platform. The National Institute for Environmental Studies, NISE, is positioned as the core of the information platform. And the NISE provides the website. And at the website, there are a variety of information for adaptation, including future projections of rice yield or like loss of sandy beaches like this. So people can take a look at it and can get to know about the adaptation issues. Third purpose is the enhancement of local adaptation. So under the Act, the local governments shall endeavor to formulate local climate change adaptation plans and many other activities at the local level is required. Also, the Act addresses the international development of adaptation and other issues. Under that, for example, we provide AP Plan, which is the Asia Pacific Climate Change Adaptation Information Platform. And it provides the sort of information platform for Asia and Pacific region. And final objective is the promotion of heat illness prevention measures. So these days, the summer is getting hot in Japan, and the heat illness is like a social issue here. So we have revised the Adaptation Act and included the promotion of heat illness prevention measures in 2023. So going back to our first objective, integrated promotion of adaptation. So under that purpose, we do have climate change impact assessment. And also we have climate change adaptation plan. Let me first explain a bit about climate change impact assessment. So under the Adaptation Act, Ministry of the Environment shall implement climate change impact assessment. And the assessment assesses the impact of climate change on 71 categories covering 7 sectors such as like agriculture, water, environment, natural ecosystem, and natural disaster, and so on, and which are based on the scientific findings from 3 perspectives: significance, urgency, and confidence. Significance concerns how climate change will impact Japan, to what extent, with how much likelihood, and so on. And urgency concerns when the impact will manifest itself, when adaptation efforts need to be started, and when key decisions need to be made. And confidence refers to the certainty of the evidence. And the the climate change impact assessment will be updated approximately every 5 years based on latest scientific findings. So far, the assessment have been conducted in 2015 and 2020, and in 2020, more than 1,000 reference documents were used as the basis for the report. which is approximately 2.5 times more than the previous assessment made in 2015. And confidence, which means the certainty of the evidence, was increased for 31 categories. Now, concerning significance and urgency, compared with the assessment conducted in 2015, 3 categories were newly assessed as recognized as having particularly significant impacts, and 8 categories were assessed as having high urgency of response. This is what the climate impact assessment have addressed so far. And we, under the Climate Change Act, we also the Adaptation Act also requires the national government to develop the National Climate Change Adaptation Plan. And the plan aims to achieve a safe and sustainable society by avoiding and minimizing negative impacts of climate change, securing citizens' life, socioeconomic development and ecosystem, and building national resilience. The plan is reviewed periodically, approximately every 5 years, and reviewed based on the climate change impact assessment. The plan also addresses the basic roles of stakeholders. Those are national government, local government, business, citizens, and needs. And the role of the national government is to take the initiative to implement adaptation measures and to promote diverse stakeholders' adaptation. The role of local governments are to promote adaptation in local areas and to promote local stakeholders' adaptation. The role of business is that to advance adaptation in each business sector and to promote adaptation business. The citizens' role is to take adaptation action and to cooperate in adaptation measures. The National Institute for Environmental Studies also has the role to develop information infrastructure for adaptation, which I explained in the previous slide. And they provide a website citing many adaptation information. And also they provide technical support for local authorities. The objective of the adaptation plan is to take effective adaptation actions based on reliable and detailed information. And the plan stipulates 7 pillars of strategies, as you can see here. So, for example, it's including the mainstreaming adaptation in all policies, promoting science-based adaptation, developing information platform as a center of excellence, and some other things. And the plan sets out climate change impact and adaptation measures in each sector, which covers the 7 sectors like agriculture and natural disasters. And I will explain in next slides. But it's also because the plan is reviewed periodically, they also set out the KPIs and indicators. And based on KPIs and indicators, the progress of the adaptation plan is monitored and evaluated every year. So in total, the assessment and the plan have the periodical review process. First, we have assessment, the climate change impact assessment, which is conducted every 5 years. And then the adaptation plan is formulated. And based on the adaptation plan, monitoring and evaluation is conducted every year using the KPIs and indicators. And the follow-up reports will be published, and as well as midterm report and final report will be published for the plan. So let me briefly explain about our climate change impact and adaptation measures addressed under the Climate Change Adaptation Plan. So the plan has covering 7 sectors with 71 categories. So here's the example for agriculture sector. So for example, for the paddy rice, so we determine the climate change impact is the deterioration in quality due to high temperatures. And if the conversion to high temperatures resistant varieties does not proceed, the percentage of the first class rice may decrease nationwide. Those are the identified climate change impact. And we also set out the adaptation measures. Those are development and dissemination of high temperature resistant varieties, and also thoroughly implement basic techniques such as fertilizer and water management. And for this paddy rice issue, we do set up the KPIs. Those are, for example, the percentage of area planted with high temperature resistant varieties. Based on that KPI, we do have a periodical review. So another example is from the natural disasters. So for the rivers, we do identify the climate change impact as the number of points where water level exceeded the level of flood risk increasing, and heavy rain that caused floods will increase significantly, and those some other issues are identified. And for that climate change impact, we do set up the adaptation plan. Those include reviewing flood control plans reflecting the impacts of climate change, or promoting initiatives that integrate structural and non-structural measures in cooperation among all stakeholders. And for that, we do have KPIs such as number of river improvement plans reflecting the future impacts of climate change. So this is our overview of the programs and policies. Let's move on to, hold on, our reporting experience. I will share my screen again. Can you, okay, I hope you can see my screen. So for the reporting, we have submitted 8 national communications so far. And for the biennial transparency report, we are still under the final authorization process, and we will be submitting soon. And we also have submitted adaptation communications. And first adaptation communication was submitted in 2021, and second one was submitted in 2023. And for the national communication, which was mostly written based on the climate change adaptation plan. So here is the outline of the chapter 5, which addresses the adaptation issue. So we do have overview and introduction, and later on we do have institutional and legal framework and implementation system for climate change adaptation measures. So as I explained, we do have Adaptation Act, we have adaptation assessment, and also plan, and those frameworks are addressed under this section. And then we have objectives, basic roles of stakeholders, and basic strategies and progress management. So those are also included in the plan, as I explained. And for the major climate change impact assessment and basic concept of adaptation measures on individual sectors, those are addressed at the Adaptation Act, as I explained. So we have like agriculture, or the water management and natural disaster sectors, and we do have identified the climate change impact and also set up the measures. So we write details here. And for the adaptation efforts by local government and business operations, the local governments and business are the stakeholders under the Act, and also the adaptation plan. So we do write their adaptation efforts here. And we also have the cross-sectoral efforts and international corporations. And under that, we write about the AP plan, Asia Pacific Information Platform, and some the 8.5, section 8. Section 5.8 is about the basic measures relating to promoting adaptation measures. So as I explained in the early section, our adaptation plan, and as well as the adaptation assessment and adaptation law, is pretty much covering what we write in the national communication. So from that experience, so what we learned is the well-prepared adaptation plan is very useful for the reporting under the UNFCCC. However, we have issues. For example, there is a gap between the reporting components for UNFCCC and the adaptation plan. The adaptation plan here means the climate change adaptation plan of Japan. So, for example, the adaptation priorities is one of the BTR's reporting components, but no priorities are set in the adaptation plan. So we need to consider how to address the adaptation priorities in the BTR. This is our lessons learned so far. Thank you so much. This is all from me, but I'm very happy to take any questions you may have. But at the same time, unfortunately, I am more on the transparency negotiation people, and our adaptation people cannot join today. So I will try best to answer any questions. But if I cannot answer to your question, please feel free to send me an email so that I can forward it to my adaptation people. Thank you very much. Back to you, J-Pop.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Yuka, for the very comprehensive presentation and the sharing the activity that Japan is doing, how Japan is handling, and we can see from your slide that you have a very excellent work in the adaptation, not only perspective of the reporting, but for the country itself, you have done a very good work to the handling this all the climate change related events and how to track them, how to handle them. So thank you so much from all the participant. And as Yuka mentioned, if you have any question, uh, we are happy to answer. And you can unmute your mic or you can ask your question through chat box. You can also mention our email ID in the chat. So in future, if you want to anything you want to learn, please drop an email to her. Until we receive a question, maybe Slejana, if you have any comment or suggestion on the presentation, please.
Yes, of course. I would like to thank you, Mrs. Yuka Okajima. We are cooperating in our mutual learning program with the Ministry of Japan and with the IGES. So we are very well aware of your role in mitigation section, but thank you also very much for providing us very comprehensive information in regards of the adaptation. I have some question for you. I hope that you will be able to answer. I see here that your institutional arrangements very well set up and established, as well as policies and regulations in regards of the adaptation tracking and also reporting. Besides the others, you mentioned that you have a climate change adaptation information online platform. So I was wondering, are there some indicators that are publicly available for tracking your adaptation process on the, do you have it on your platform? And also, you says that you evaluate your national adaptation plan every year. So can you say anything about your adaptation progress or results of your adaptation? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Slajana, for your question. So let me show my screen maybe. So okay, sorry. Sorry, I can't do that right now, but let me briefly explain. So for the tracking of the progress, we do have a periodical report based on the indicators and KPIs, and we publish it on our website at the Ministry of the Environment website. Unfortunately, it's only in Japanese, but the citizens can take a look at it and they can easily understand that progress. And also, the information platform is a different website from our ministry. It is operated by the National Institute of the Environmental Studies, and they more provide a very broad information on adaptation, such as the let's say the sorry, what to say in English? Sorry, for the future projections, or even they are explaining about what is the adaptation means and what's going to happen for the climate change. And they also cite like interviews at the local governments and what they are doing, or what the local business person are doing for many issues. And so the citizens can take a look at it and can get to know. But it's not only about the progress of the adaptation measures, but it's more for the information hub for all adaptation issues. I hope this answers to your question.
Yes, of course. I do not consider this, like question answer, but also like discussion and, analysis of your adaptation tracking and reporting system. So we would like to better learn about it and maybe to apply some good practices from you in some other areas. So that's this experience is very, very valuable. Also, you mentioned that you have defined 5 types of the stakeholders involved in your adaptation process, and among others, there are citizens that are, implementing adaptation actions. So, how do you track or monitor these activities? And actually, what is your rate of implementation of the adaptation measures, if you can, make any estimations on annual level, like, since you are have a good monitoring and evaluation system, so probably what is the final rate of the implementation like on the annual basis.
Okay, thank you. So for let's take the example for the agriculture. So let me share my screen again. So for the paddy rice issue, which is the deterioration in quality due to the high temperatures, we do set up the KPI. For example, the percentage of area planted with high temperature resistant varieties. And for that KPI, sorry, here. So here is our part of our follow-up reports. Sorry, it's only in English, but let me explain. So it writes the KPIs, and for the paddy rice issue, it says the planting of the high resilient temperature crops, and they say like how many percentage of the areas are planted with high temperature resistant crops are planted. So the target for the 2026 it's set out the 18%, and for the 2022, so we have progressed and towards 12.4%. So we have, you can see the progress for that measures, like from starting from the in 2020, we do only have the 11.2%, but in the 2022, we have 12.4% with the high temperature resilient crops. And we do have the final target for the 2026 with the 18% of the paddy rice areas with the high temperature resistant crops are planted. That's all for me.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I see also some participants would like, they have some questions for you. So please unmute your microphone and ask a question.
Yuka-san, thank you very much for elaborated presentation. This is good example to follow. Some of them according to our own situation. Private sector is also your stakeholder. My question is about monitoring and evaluation. Do they have their own self-assessment mechanism, or you are monitoring and evaluating them?
Thank you for your question. This is very important question. As far as I know, there is no KPI. KPIs are set for the private sectors, but I'm not sure how they are. How the government is conducting the assessment. So if you can email me, I can ask my adaptation people for the double check. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Okajima. Just to say that, many countries, many developing countries are really facing with some challenges in regards of the, monitoring and evaluation of the adaptation. So that's why we are all very much interested in your system of monitoring and evaluation and reporting results. And my last question would be in regards of your BTR and the adaptation section within the BTR. And as I know from our previous meetings, your BTR is almost ready, if not fully ready by now for submission. Have you included adaptation section in your BTR?
Yes, we do have adaptation chapter in our BTR.
Oh, thank you. That would be great to see. And we are very much eager to see your full document once when you submit. And as I know it, that will be very soon. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Any more questions from the participants? Also, maybe one interesting issue that is for first time included in UNFCCC reporting system is about the loss and damage. And I saw from your national communication and from your adaptation plan that you have also issues in regards to the loss and damage. So would you be able to report on loss and damage in accordance to the MPGs? Or you will report in accordance to your common way of monitoring and evaluation of the loss and damage and measures and actions in that sense? Thank you.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I'm not sure about the loss and damages. So yeah, you can see our BTL, which will be submitted in due course. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yuka, and thank you, Slejana, for the very interactive discussion. And I think it will also useful for the all the participant. If any participant has any question to the Miss Yuka or anything that you want to know from the Japan's, please. This is the chance you have. You can also drop your message or comment suggestion in the chat box. Okay, I think there is no question or anything. So I would like to thank you again, Miss Yuka, for the giving the time and staying here with us and sharing the discussions and our experience of the Japan with all the participants and all the countries of the Asia region. We are greatly appreciate your support. And with this, we will move forward to the next activity. So I got a message from the Ferdinand, our speaker from the Indonesia, that he is still in the some meeting, so he will take some time. So now we will move forward our last part, the Mentimeter, to now. So after I think the Mentimeter exercise, our expert will join and we will listen from the Mr. Padinan of the Ministry of Environment of the Indonesia. And I would also like to introduce him. He is a very well expert in this adaptation field, and he is also leading all the adaptation activity in the Indonesia. He has a PhD degree from the Michigan State University of the USA and also the master degree from the University of Queensland in the Australia. So all the work that Indonesia is doing in related to the adaptation, also in NDC, also the BTR or the UR or the nation communication. He is the one of the leader, or you can say team leader for that. So please take as much advantage of him and ask any question. He can answer so many things related to the adaptation. And me and Slejana have already had experience with him during I think around 1 month before we have conducted the in-country workshop in the Indonesia. And there is a one day that we have particularly allocated for the adaptation. So we also learned so many things from the Indonesia. So I would also request all of you to please take advantage of this session and ask as much as question, clear your doubt, anything that you would like to know about the adaptation, he can answer. So once he joined, we will continue to hear the Indonesia's experience. So before that, if you have any question, we are happy to answer. Otherwise, I will start our Mentimeter exercise, the last Mentimeter of our adaptation series of the webinar. And I would request all of you to please join this Mentimeter. So I am posting the link in the chat box of this Mentimeter survey. I will also share the screen. Just give me 1 minute. Okay, I have posted the link in the chat box, so you can click and join. And I will also share the screen here, so you can scan the QR code. Those who are not able to scan the code, please use the link in the chat box. It will directly take you to the Mentimeter survey. You can also scan this QR code. Those who have access, please continue to answer the next question. We will also see the response and discuss how participants are responding to our questions. And I can see around 8 responses. So I would request other colleagues also, please join this Mentimeter. I think we have more people from Indonesia, India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh. So their first question is, what remains the biggest challenge in reporting the adaptation within the maybe first BTR? Maybe you have a more idea about after attending this series of webinar that this could be a more priority or this could be a biggest challenge when you're preparing the adaptation chapters, specifically guide even following the guidelines of the enhanced transparency framework. So I think data availability is the most important challenge I can see from this all 13 responses. Having a metadata in a loss and damage, overlapping and difficulty in obtaining the reliable long-term data. Yeah. Yes, MND system is also the important part, and we have a specific this discussed during the one of the webinar. Indicators, lack of clarity in the guidelines, data availability, and the quality. Yeah. Development of robust MND system, data collection, particularly on the availability of data. I think this data challenge is not only for the BTR, but from my experience, it is also applicable to the all the chapter of the BTR. Not only adaptation, but I think greenhouse gas inventory and NDC tracking, all are detailed and dependent on the data. And In these chapters, we are also reporting this data in a particular format. So this is a more complex thing, I think. But yeah, I can understand from the adaptation also that it is not possible to do the adaptation reporting without the historical data and the uncertainty in the climate projection. Yes, climate models have inherent uncertainty and also at regional level, making difficult to predict the exactly how climate impacts will evolve. And yes, I think our participants are more active in the Mentimeter in compared to the question and answer and the chat box. So at least good thing that we got to know from you that what are the challenges in the Asia when we are preparing the BTR, and this will also help us to do the future activities in the adaptation area. Uniform data availability for all the regions, even if the indicator are being selected. Okay. Okay, let's move to the next question. What other aspect of the adaptation reporting would you like to learn in the our next webinars or the workshop or the any training, anything that we are planning to do? What do you, anything that you want to add specific to your country? Maybe not the regional level, but specific to your country, if there is anything that you think. I think most of the challenges that you have mentioned in the last question could be also the part of our training in the next webinars or the workshops. For the best practices that you want to learn, I would request you to uh, focus on the next presentation from the Indonesia and ask the question how they are collecting the data, how they are dealing with. And I also saw the profile of the Mr. Padinan that he has published more than 100 papers in the adaptation and so many research. So maybe he can answer the your query in a few minutes. So uh, this will be a very good chance all of you to take advantage of the next session also. Gender perspective, this is another new thing and people are not quite aware, but this is also the important. Sector specific adaptation reporting, section GHI. Okay, these are the MPG section that we have covered also, but participant want to go in detail how to adaptation reporting can be incorporated in the MIS of the government. Okay. So data is the challenge and data is the thing that people want to learn in the next activities related to adaptation or anything. So until we receive responses, I would also request Lejana to share some experience of the adaptation academy that you recently conducted in the Thailand. Uh, what was the main area that you have targeted in this adaptation academy? It is the kind of technical thing, or what is that? Maybe you can say it in a few lines.
Oh, yes, thank you, Jaypal. Yeah, it was very, very interesting. It was consisted of, I would say, two parts, technical aspects. with the BTR adaptation chapter and requirements and MPGs related to adaptation, but also included a part with very valuable experiences from South Korea on their adaptation planning and development of their national adaptation plans, but also very interesting insights and information from colleagues from UNFCCC about the national adaptation plans. So even for me, I've heard some really new information, but what would I specifically stress that NAP, National Adaptation Plans, are recognized as the most comprehensive plans for the national level for addressing your adaptation process. So it's very much recommended for all countries to use the specifically dedicated fund for development of the national adaptation plans. At this point, I can tell you that each country can get $3 million US for development of their national adaptation plans. So I would highly recommend you, if not yet, to use these funds and to develop your adaptation plans, since they are based actually for any actions in regards of your adaptation, national adaptation process, as well as a great source of information later for any reporting requirements for both for national adaptation, for national communications, but specifically for BTR's adaptation chapter. So I highly recommend for countries that did not develop their national adaptation plans to apply for the funds within the GCF. So there is a window for development readiness for the national adaptation plans. It's a specific window for funding of development of the national adaptation plans. So you can apply and use these funds. Also, as I said, it was really interesting to hear experience from South Korea as a developed country, and how did they struggled with all challenges faced while developing their national adaptation plans. And actually, they used simple reasoning. Yes, there are some guidance for national adaptation planning, but there are also some obstacles and lack of information, etc., etc. And for me, it was really interesting to hear how they worked on that step by step and developed their national adaptation plan, which is really covering all areas of adaptation process within the country. So yes, I have also these presentations with me, and I will share it. That under the, you can find it on our climate transparency platform. So you can see some information that we really learned and heard there for the first time, even for me. So yeah, that was in short from my side. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lejana, for sharing the experience of the recent Adaptation Academy, the 5 days workshop, the physical workshop in the Thailand that conducted by the UNFCCC, and our colleague Slezana was also there as an expert. So that's great to hear. And if we continue with our Mentimeter, the next question is what are the country-specific aspect of the adaptation reporting you would like to learn? maybe there is any specific country situation which be more important, which but could not be important as a regional level or the international level. So I am happy to see the one gender someone has mentioned. This is of course important, and some countries.
یا امکان داره بره. شاید دست خانم عزیزیه. مطمئنین گفتن دست منه؟ گفت مقصودی؟
Our colleague from Iran saying something, but okay, this is in local language, so we are not able to understand. Yeah, so in the responses, reporting on loss and damage related to aspect of climate change, impact-based adaptation measure when impact are magnificent than projected. Oh yes, that's a new thing. Please feel free to share your feedback or suggestion through in Mentimeter. You can still join through this link in the chat box. And I would also request you, all of you, to please give us the feedback for this series of webinar that we have conducted, which will also help us to improve ourselves. And I think in the next question, we are also asking that what is the area or sections or anything that we can improve in our webinar that we are planning in future.
If I may just jump in here for the previous slides. What I've noted by reviewing of adaptation sections within your national communications and now within the BTRs, countries regularly provide information, or most of the countries provide information about climate change impact. But observed or recent impact that they have recorded. But very often the countries are not able and do not report on projected impacts of the climate change negative events. So that as you could see through the adaptation sections of the BTR, it's information that is, required by the guidelines, and it is very tightly related to climate projections. So I know that it's very, very hard to find methodological option in order to, assess and provide information about future impacts of the climate change in regards of the loss and damage and other negative effects of the climate change in the future. But also you can use always simple reasoning. So if is by your projections, you see on the time horizon that by the end of the century you expect more rain, or different change in rain patterns over the time. You can make some conclusions about the future impact of the negative effects of the climate change. For instance, more floods or more droughts in the specific areas, etc., etc. That's something I just would like to stress here. And also just be aware that your first BTR, especially your adaptation section, will not be perfect at all, and it should not be. Since you will have a chance to improve that over the time, since you improve your capacities to monitor, evaluate, and report your adaptation. So the guidelines, as I said, maybe through this webinar series of webinars, the guidelines are guidelines. They are not prescriptions. So you would, and also adaptation reporting is voluntary. So you don't have to strictly follow all requirements of the MPGs since they are guidelines, and just support you in your efforts to report your adaptation efforts as best as good as you can. So that was like some comment on areas. I know that the challenge is reporting on loss and damage as a new section of the new part and new area within the UNFCCC reporting system. But as I said earlier, also you can use here simply data that you have. So or simple reasoning, or as much as data as you have. So I'll stop now. Over to you, Jepal.
Thank you, Slejana, for the quick update about this. And let us quickly finish. Please answer this question. And the last question is, what aspect of the webinar would you like to improve in the next time? Okay, you would like to hear from the different countries. Yeah, that's the objective. And I think we have tried to put one country in the one of the webinar, each webinar. So that's your idea also, to listen from the other countries how they are doing. Physical training, more presentation, monitoring and evaluation of private sector stakeholder. Okay. Institutional framework for climate policy and legal procedure arrangement. Okay. Weekend can be used for the webinar. Yeah, someone is more interested into learning adaptation, that's a good thing. Breakout group, that we can do anytime, but you have to speak something, and without we can't create a silent breakout group. So if you guys are ready to share something or anything, we are happy to do that. Again, so I would request those who have not joined the Mentimeter, please join. It will really helpful for us to design and prepare the next activity also. And it is also the one of the part of our reporting that we are doing to the UNEP and the JEP for the work or activities that we are doing.
I really expected here, Jaypal, to see that this series of webinar was like too long or too demanding in regards of the time, but I see here that people are, our participants, our respected country representatives are asking for more sessions, more presentations to share experience, more interactions. So I'm glad to hear that. And also, I can stress here now that you are always welcome to contact us. We can organize one-to-one meeting with you to, discuss specific issues related to adaptation tracking or adaptation reporting for your country. So you are very much welcome. And that's actually why we are here to support you in especially preparation your BTRs now, which is of the utmost importance since the deadline is very near. And we really hope that we can support you, and that you will ask us to support to finalize your adaptation section within your BTR. And especially just to stress once more that these presentations and slides are really short guidelines for adaptation reporting within the BTR following the MPGs, so you can use that as a great source of information for reporting adaptation within your BTR. So thank you very much for joining us, and I hope Jepal, we can organize more events. And as I said, one-to-one meetings with country representatives, always upon your requests, your needs, etc. So, yeah.
Yes. So as Slejana mentioned, please do not hesitate to contact, or if you have any question, any comment. I heard something. Okay. Yes, Mr. Harris from India, please.
Firstly, thank you so much, Bandalo and Jaipal, for this series of webinars. I had just a small question. Section H in the VTR, it talks about cooperation, good practices, and lessons learned. So there are some lessons learned which we have heard from Bangladesh, from Japan, Vietnam, and from Indonesia. But in terms of cooperation, does the BTR talk about some kind of cooperation between the countries, like reporting in terms of adaptation measures which are being done transboundary wise? Just I had some questions regarding what kind of a cooperation.
If I may jump in here, thank you very much, Dr. Chandra, for your question. Yeah, the cooperation means cooperation between countries, cross-border cooperation on specific adaptation actions or on research or, joint assessment, since, the neighboring countries are facing more or less similar climate change impacts, and they are, trying to find some solutions how to cope with that. So in the same region, the issues and problems are similar, as well as, institutional arrangements, etc. So that section is aiming and asking you to provide any information in, cooperating on any neighboring countries on the adaptation actions or on research that you are doing together.
Thank you, Slejana, and thank you, Haris, for the interesting question. So let's move to our next presentation from the Indonesia, and after the presentation, you have a chance to interact with the Mr. Ferdinand, and I have already given a introduction of the Mr. Ferdinand and his work, but let me invite and would like to thank him specially for taking the time from the busy time. He was already in the meeting, but he took some 15-20 minutes to speak here and share the experience of the Indonesia with all the participants. So I would greatly appreciate your support. And from the starting of the our activity, CBIT GSP, I know that whenever we have contacted, you are available for us. So we greatly appreciate, and we would like to hear from the interesting stories and everything that you are doing about the adaptation in Indonesia. So please, Mr. Padina.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jefal, and also Miss Slajana. Should I call you like that? And maybe I will just turn off my camera, yeah, to ensure the connection is good enough. So I would like to share about the Indonesian experience policy action for adaptation. Maybe during the discussion we can talk much more technical, how we formulate adaptation action at the local level, for example. But this one is when we are conducting the development of our second NDC, what kind of modalities, how we formulate it, and etc. etc. Can you move on to the next slide? So actually, we have the adaptation target that we already put in our long-term strategy for low carbon and climate resilience 2050 that is submitted to UNFCCC, that climate resilience as a part of Paris Agreement has some indicators, climate resilient on economy, social, and environment with the principle of no one left behind. So we also look at the behavioral and technology adaptation as our local capacity potency and the integration of data and information. So for ensuring how the adaptation can be in place, we need to do some integration of data and information. And also natural resources on terrestrial and maritime. We have three pillars to achieve the climate resilience. We look at the sustainability in terms of generation. So when we propose some kind of action, we also need to ensure whether or not this is good enough or not harmful for our young generation. And for the justice, we ensure about the space, how the use of land allocation, etc., also in accordance to the adaptation need. And for transformation, this is related with time, how the adaptation action should transform and also can provide the benefit to the social and economy. So for each of the pillars, we try to have specific target. For example, we have three indicators for three aspects: investment for economy, human resource capacity and green job opportunity for the social, land and seascape management for the environment. So we have a specific indicator for investment, for example. There is based on climate risk code, renewable energy and infrastructure, and smart action. So whatever the adaptation strategies proposed must follow or must comply with the climate risk code, for example, whether or not you do the adaptation on the basis of vulnerable areas, and whether or not you're going to use renewable energy and climate resources, and also smart action. The adaptation implementation in Indonesia also need to look at the human resource capacity and green job opportunity as the measures. We have some indicators to measure on that one: literacy management, human resource capacity, and green job opportunity. So the adaptation that is put in Indonesia need to strengthen the human resource capacity, for example. And the last one, in terms of environment, we have three indicators: ecoregion or climate zone, heat island, and comprehensive integrative intervention. So by looking at those three, then Indonesian government already have 8 strategies on adaptation that is distributed to 6 priority areas: water, food, energy, environmental health, ecosystem, and disasters. The last one, if you see on the bottom of it, adaptation action should also decrease greenhouse gas emission. So we need to ensure when you conduct some kind of adaptation action, it's not also harmful to the emission. So we want there is a co-benefit on mitigation when we do adaptation. Next slide. Next slide, Jepal. So this is the framework and methodology that we do to prepare our second national determined contribution on adaptation. We look at our first commitment on adaptation action and implementation. And then we have the Annex 2 in the NDC. There is adaptation strategies, resilient targets that I already let you know before. And there is 6 sectors. We got it from the adaptation communication that is also already submitted to UNFCCC. And then we do some gap analysis. Based on related document in Indonesia. Most likely is policy development documents related with our national target. And then we have the gap analysis. The gap analysis usually on the basis of what kind of modalities we have, and then we do action mapping. What is the role of party stakeholder and non-party stakeholders? So we can formulate our commitment for the second NDC. So in principle, the adaptation in Indonesia has 6 output actually: regulation, literacy, program, practice, tools, and funding. So we discuss about how the adaptation can increase the literacy of Indonesian community on climate change. What kind of action they need to do when they are facing changing climate, indicating by, for example, higher temperature, uh, unpredicted rainfall, and so on. The regulation we mapping how the Indonesian government endorse or support the adaptation action. There are a number of regulation, and the latest one is Presidential Regulation number 98, released in 2021, that is promoting adaptation in Indonesia. And there are a number of programs, even if only one, that is a climate village program, that is really explicitly says climate change adaptation program. But we map, there are a number of village-based program, for example, on disaster resilience, on coastal management, that may also relate with climate change adaptation. And then tools, what kind of tools available to support the adaptation action in Indonesia? For example, the existence of vulnerability tools, the existence of any kind of like guidance, how it can help the community to formulate adaptation action at their local level. Practices is what the community already did when they are facing a number of climate related hazard, because when you are only talking about climate change per se, by having, for example, higher temperature, changing rainfall, sometimes at the community level it's not easy to understand. But when you are dealing with climate extreme and then leading towards the climate related disasters, for examples, drought or flood, then they can have a better understanding on it, what they already do. And then the last one is the funding, international and national, how the funding can relate to support climate change adaptation. So based on this all information, then we prepare our commitment on adaptation in Indonesia, our second national commitment. So we have now the target, and then the player who should need to do, and the arrangement mechanism, how the coordination should behave, and etc. etc. Next slide. And my last slide, I will talk how all the modalities that we already have is connected with the GGA, Global Goal on Adaptation. That is the international decision in COP28. So because at the end of the day, we know when we are facing climate-related hazard, the community, the government must do something in order to adapt with the new changing climate. But then we also map it with regarding the GGA. The GGA commitment, for example, in number 1, in 2030, there is updated assessment of climate change impact, probabilities, and risks. This is actually very important as a baseline for adaptation action, for defining adaptation action. So we identify the available modalities in Indonesia that can ease how we formulate adaptation action. The first one is SIDIC, KLHK. This is actually vulnerability tools based on socio-economic data set. So it's assumed if you have different level or different level of socioeconomic condition, when striking by the same climate-related disaster, the impact will be different due to your social economic condition. And then JEDA, Jeddah is actually Adaptation portal. This has not been launched formally, but is already initiated by the government through the National Focal Point. This is put on the climate change literacy on adaptation, climatic atlas, and other information that is basic or basic element or essential for climate change adaptation. On the disaster risk, we have the INARIS. This is from Disaster Risk Management Agency Indonesia. We call it BNPB. And for some specific example from the health sector, there is already a health risk sector in that website, apicamcast.id. In 2027, when their GGA direct to have a multi-hazard early warning system, actually there are already a number of modalities available in Indonesia from the national government. For example, the ones that I also involved in the development is the flood early warning system is in dashboard pencegahan bnpb.go.id where we connected data from different national institution, that is from BMKG, from PUPR, the Ministry of Public Works, and also from the Ministry of Environment and Forestry into a single portal to have early warning on a flood. In 2027 as well, there is a climate information service for systematic reduction and observation. We have here again BMKG and also from the Ministry of Public Works and settlement WRDC. This is compiling all data set related to waters. So we just try to map our modalities in accordance to the GGA and what we need to do to develop those modalities so we can have national system in place in compliance with a global goal adaptation, and also to ensure the transparency framework that is already articulated in Paris Agreement, if I'm not mistaken, Article 13. And then in 2030, the progress on the implementation of National Adaptation Plan. As of now, Indonesia already have Health National Adaptation Plan, but now we are undergoing how we can have our National Action Plan. Regarding the National Action Plan, actually Indonesian government already have the roadmap of NDC for adaptation. So we just need to comply with the all elements of National Action Plan. And the last one, build and operationalize a monitoring, evaluation, and learning system. Actually, that is already regulated by Presidential Decree number 98 released in 2021. We already have a system registry nasional, actually national registry system in that website that is compiled or climate change action into a single portal, so we can ensure whether or not our commitment already conducted, what are the results, and so on. There are still many challenges actually based on all these modalities, because not all the modalities already operational well, but at least we already have the baseline, the modalities as our baseline, how we are approaching the global goal on adaptation. Maybe that's from me, because the last slide will be just thank you. Back to you, Jepal.
Thank you so much, Mr. Padinan, for the very quickly you have informed everything about the how Indonesia is doing, and especially how the second NDC you have planned, how you collected data, how you have prepared, how you involve everything. So we are very grateful for your presentation and the time that you have allocated for our series of webinar in the last webinar. Uh, I again open the floor for the if you have any question. This is the last activity of the last webinar of our series of the uh, webinars on the adaptation. So please feel free to suggest, comment, or any question you have related to this presentation from the Indonesia. Yes, Mr. Gulam, please.
Thank you very much and very good presentation. from Indonesian colleague. Uh, I have some concerns on resilience. Resilience means you are reducing the vulnerability. On the other hand, if we look at the occurrence of extreme events, frequent extreme events, impacts are becoming harder and harder, increasing the vulnerability. I would like to ask my colleague from Indonesia, how do you keep balance in reporting under such situation?
Just answer directly, Jepa.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It is a very difficult question when you dealing with resilience, right? That's why I propose to the Indonesian government the point of view of resilience that can be measurable maybe. When you want to measure the mitigating the risk, for example, like reducing the vulnerability, it could be very difficult because then you need to do the baseline of your vulnerable condition, the risk condition, etc., etc. So I propose, can we do in the point of view of adaptation benefit, so increasing capacity, because this is very difficult. Why I'm saying is difficult, because increasing capacity doesn't necessarily mean you can avoid or overcome the risk as is, right? But you can measure your capacity now. For example, before you don't have some kind of instrument to dealing with flood. Now you can supply the instrument to dealing with flood. So you can have a better understanding that your capacity already increased. Because this is similar when I did my PhD, my research actually the climate change impact in the North America, and I'm took at the benefit of climate change impact, not the adverse impact of climate change. Because in a particular area, climate change can provide you benefit for longer growing season, for example. So something like this, when we look at from the benefit perspective, that is not necessarily reducing the loss, but it can increase the capacity. Maybe we can increase or we can measure our adaptation action. That's actually the challenge still now, right? In the field of academic community, when you talk about how we measure the adaptation, the benefit of adaptation, right? Because you already spend a couple dollars, then how you can measure it? Because, for example, when the extreme is beyond your prediction, and you already invest to increase your capacity, you still distracted, right? That's why the term of loss and damage is in place, right? Because you already do a better adaptation, you already do a good mitigation, but then still there is a damage left. So this is loss and damage in terms of climate change. That's why I'm proposing even to my government how we can measure the adaptation benefit in from the perspective of increasing capacity. I will just put some examples to make it clear. For example, when we know climate change will reduce the productivity of food commodities, for example, rice, okay, paddy field. When we do some adaptation action, for example, superior cultivars, we know the superior cultivars can increase our production, for example, by 15% or 20%. So we can measure when we do the superior cultivar, our production will increase by 20%. However, it is very difficult when we say if we increase the production by 20%, is that mean we can cover the 20% of production loss due to climate change? This is very difficult, right? Because it doesn't direct like that. But if we agree on to measure the adoption benefit based on the increasing capacity, it is measurable. That's maybe how we can approach this thing at the current state of our understanding. Back to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Gulam, and thank you, Dr. Ferdinand, for this interesting discussion. Any other participant? Has any suggestion, any comment, please? If not, then maybe I can give floor to Slejana and then maybe can close our series.
Yes, thank you, Jaipal, and thank you, Dr. Ferdinand, for sharing your great experience. So I will start from the last one that you explained how you actually use the principle of the measuring and tracking adaptation benefits. So yeah, I think it's a good approach since the opposite one, like measuring, impacts, which is related to climate change, is much more difficult in regards of the applied methodologies, etc., etc. So there are, yeah, we understand lots of challenges in that section, in that way. So measuring adaptation benefits can be great. Also, in the context of the BTR, it's expected to report your adaptation results. So that's also one direction where you can use data that you use that resulting from your analysis and assessments of your adaptation benefits. So great. I see that as adaptation target and goal in your NDC, you have explained your three main pillars and related to adaptation, and also 8 NDC strategies related to the 6 areas covered by this adaptation goal within the NDC. My question would relate to you mentioned that you perform gap analysis. So I would like to ask you what gaps have you identified within your adaptation process or adaptation reporting process, and what are the challenges still remaining in that context for you?
Yeah. Thank you, Slajana. So this is very classical. It's always the availability of data and information, right? And also our diverse understanding when conducting the climate change impact assessment. For example, for food sector, when we do the climate change impact assessment, usually is most likely on the food commodities price. We even doesn't have for corn, horticulture, etc., etc. Uh, Whereas we know the climate change will impact our food, right? Just measuring the rice itself might not be adequate because maybe our Indonesian will eat not only rice, right? So we also need to know about potato, etc., etc. So the comprehensive of analysis when we save on the food sector. The same in waters. Usually we just look at from the water availability based on the changing rainfall. But actually we need to include a lot of information like water infrastructure, etc. There are a lot of information that we need to also to include. So in short, when we are talking about the uh, evaluating the impact of climate change, the impact of climate change as the baseline of adaptation is still challenging. The second one, how we agree on the baseline. What are the baseline actually? What are the baseline for adaptation? For mitigation is very clear. The baseline can be we drive from the emission reduction because we know the measures of concentration in the atmosphere, right? And also even actually we adapt to what? That's why I'm proposing Miss Slajana, we adapting actually to new regime of temperatures. Why I say that? Because the global target is limiting the increasing temperature over 2 degrees. Even the ambitious is now 1.5 degrees. Actually, we're adapting to that temperatures. So if we can have this agreement, it can helpful. Because as you know, climate is not only temperature. Say, I know, I understand as well. There is rainfall, humidity, etc. But when you need an agreement of single measures, you adapt to what? So you can calculate the amount of investment you need. That is another challenge, right? Because we always say we need to do some adaptation. But when, for example, Ministry of Finance asks you how much money do you need to adapt, is another question, right? And my last one, maybe, because if we can continue, there are many challenges, Ms. Lajana. Maybe the last one actually is more on how you measures the impact of adaptation as the investment. Because at the end of the day, when you do adaptation, there is only two single measures that I propose to the Indonesian government. The ones is resource mobilization. If you do climate change action, whether or not it can trigger or mobilize resources, finance, facilities, etc., etc. And the second one is the creation of job opportunities. The climate action that you take in place, whether or not it can sustain the creation of job opportunities. If not, it's just public spending. It's just cost spending. It's government spending. So how you can attract investment? Because this is the ones that I found, because I'm also a reviewer for Green Climate Fund. Every time I got the proposal on Green Climate Fund, these two that is really I scrutinize a lot. Because we do some investment, okay, you try to address the climate challenges, the climate impact, and you want to reduce the carbon emission, and also we can measure it as a co-benefit of adaptation. But if you cannot also boosting the economic growth, creating new job opportunities, so how it can sustain in the future? That's actually, I think, those three big challenges that we are facing in Indonesia and maybe also across the globe, Ms. Lajana, because that's the challenge with adaptation. Even I may close my explanation in here. Yeah, when we see global goal on adaptation, it's not on the target; it's more on the process. It means we might not have an agreement on single measures on adaptation, like in mitigation. Mitigation is clear, emission reduction, CO2 equivalent. Can we also agree for adaptation? That's why our GGA is more on the process, right? You must have comprehensive climate risk assessment, you must have A, B, C. It's all the process. If we can have agree on a single measure on adaptation, for example, productivity. Can we agree this as our single measures as the climate change impact is productivity? Because the impact is always decreasing or increasing our productivity, right? You can just plug in whatever sectors, it will distract your productivity. The measures can be everything. It can be gross domestic product, it can be money equivalent or land valuation, others. But at least we agree on the variable first. Can we agree productivity as a single measure of climate impact? So when we say we do adaptation, we're gonna increasing our productivity, right? Or are we minimizing our productivity loss? So if we can have those things, maybe can help a lot. And the BTR, maybe you can formulate, Jepal and Miss Lajana. So we can have at least some agreement before the COP29, right? To discuss about this thing. Single measure for adaptation. And I might help if needed for the academic papers, etc., right? So we can submit for a journal article, whatever. Because usually IPCC will use a reference before they're formulating, and UNFCCC will use IPCC report as their baseline, right? For creating the policy on climate change action. That's maybe my answer. Hopefully, it meet with your question. Thanks.
Yes, yes. Thank you very much for the very, very comprehensive explanation. Actually, I can say that I really like your way of thinking and your logic, because the adaptation was like neglected somehow for years, even though the problems and issues are there, and populations and nations are struggling with to adapt to the new environment, new effects of the climate. So comparing to mitigation, where we can see immediate effects of the measures, for instance, you have besides of the reduction of the emissions, you also, by implementing mitigation, some of the mitigation measures or most of them, you see immediate effects like in profit, like in income, like when you introduce or implement measures of the renewable energy sources, even the household level can have some profit or new income. But when it comes to the adaptation, yeah, you're right. That's investment, but in that investment, and we don't have immediate income and immediate results in that term. Yes. And yeah, I really like your way of thinking that adaptation is an investment and creation of the green jobs, etc., etc. And from that point, it can be somehow put in relation, to the mitigation action. So to see immediate value besides the one which is the main, like, to adapt to climate change impacts, increase resilience, etc., etc. So thank you very much. This could be a very, very long discussion with you, but unfortunately we are very much limited with time, and also have our dear participants from other countries maybe have some more questions for you. So since they are our priority, I would like ask them to ask some questions if they might have. So thank you once again. Over to you, Japal.
Thank you.
Thank you, Slezana, and thank you, Mr. Ferdinand. And I can see two adaptation experts are going in detail.
Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Gulam, please.
Thank you very much. Before winding up, I would like to ask one question from Salajana. She suggested to make use of climate projections while preparing BTR. So if we look at the projections and the pace of changing climate is changing faster than the projections. Projections were telling us that 1.5 degrees Celsius will be approached by the mid of this century. But 1.5 degrees Celsius is already knocking the door. Look at the hottest year experienced over the globe, 2023. It is touching 1.4 degrees Celsius already. So how to cope with such a situation when pace of changing climate is faster than our expectations? And my second question is information sharing. That for BTR, is there any format which we should download from UNFCCC website and start reporting that?
Thank you very much for your question. Yes, about the climate change and the future projections. Within your planning documents, when assessing your adaptation, you have to assess your current climate change impact or observed, but also to make some assessments considering the future climate that is expected, and in accordance to that, see what adaptation measures or adaptation process would be suitable for you in the, let's say, near future. So since you know climate modeling and climate projections are not accurate 100%, but that's why we have cycles of the 5 years of our adaptation planning process to adjust to the more expressed changes of the climate that we expected initially. So we adjust then our plans in accordance to the future projections. So and also another one issue is uncertainties. When you are assessing your potential impacts of the climate change, negative effects, you have to consider uncertainties on that path. Not just, not accurate models or projections, but also some other changes that will affect your society, which are important for your future adaptation planning. For instance, population size, economy growth or reductions, etc., etc. There are a number of the factors that affecting your decisions in regards of your adaptation. I hope that I've answered your first questions. When it comes to the BTR format, there is no specific BTR format or form to fulfill. There are just modalities, procedures, guidelines, MPGs. And in that context, you can use, as it is, as per chapters and as per, different requests in the MPGs, but also you are very much free to use any more suitable way to report your adaptation within your BTR, more suitable to your country situation, to your recent reports or information that you have at the expose, available, or etc., etc. I would suggest for all of you that are, considering how to start with this preparation of the adaptation chapter of the BTR to map data sources that you already have. So to consider to put in line MPGs and your other recently developed documents and reports, like a national adaptation plan, like national communication, adaptation communication, NDC, and other and all other national adaptation plans and strategies, and to map in accordance to the MPGs, map information that you have already there. So that can be starting point for your adaptation chapter of the BTR. And also then you can expand your chapters with any new information in regards on the specific information requested by the MPGs. So for the beginning, that should be sufficient as well for the first adaptation chapter BTR.
Thank
So
you. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
thank you for your question.
Okay, so I can see no raised hand or any comment. So this is the end, and as we come to the close of our fifth and the final webinar in our series of the adaptation reporting under the ETF of the Paris Agreement, we find ourselves filled with a profound sense of gratitude and optimism. And over the past month, actually, we have embarked on the great journey together. We have navigated into so many different parts of the adaptation reporting, from understanding the basic framework to the all the monitoring, evaluation, loss and damage. We have shared challenges, also the lesson learned from the each other experience. So today we also learn from the both developed and developing country, and I want to take a moment to reflect on what we have accomplished together. So we have started with the comprehensive understanding of the adaptation component of the BTR. We have explored the approaches to reporting on the national circumstances, legal framework, institutional arrangement. We have also goes into the assessing and reporting climate impact, risk, vulnerability. We have discussed the monitoring and evaluation adaptation action, and we have also tackled the challenges topics of loss and damage and international cooperation. And today we have seen the element come together in the real world reporting practice from the Japan and the Indonesia. So as we conclude this series, I want to express my heartfelt thanks to each and every one of you. Your active participation, your insightful question, your willingness to share your experience, these have been the true drivers of the success of this series of webinar, and you have not only enhanced knowledge but contributed to the collective learning of this entire Asia Transparency Network. I am deeply grateful, and I also want to extend my sincere appreciation to our guest speaker from the Bangladesh, Vietnam, Indonesia, Japan, and all of them, and special thanks to my colleague Miss Lejana for staying with me for all the webinars and more than 2 hours every day. So all are generously share their time and the expertise. So this practical insight have been invaluable in bridging the gap between the theory and the practice. And now, as you return to your work in your respective countries, I encourage you to carry forward the spirit of collaboration, and the road ahead in the climate adaptation reporting may have its challenging, but we are confident that with the knowledge you have gained and the experience that you learn and listen from the other countries, you are now little bit equipped to the meet these challenges. And uh, as we I think the pressing the deadline of the first BTR in 2024, let's approach this is not a reporting obligation, but kind of as an opportunity. So this is the kind of the opportunity to showcase our progress, whatever you are doing regarding the adaptation, the identify the area of improvement, to contribute to the global understanding of the adaptation need and the action. So with this, I would also like to inform that those participants, those who want a certificate from us regarding the certificate of participation, please let us know your full name that we can print on the name, and we will sign and send it to you through your email for the certification of participation. I know some of you have attended all this fifth, all 5 webinars. So thank you once again for your dedication, your engagement, and your commitment to this important work. And we look forward to seeing you positive impact of your efforts in the years to come. Thank you, and I wish you all the best in your future endeavors. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye bye, everyone. See you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Mr.
Thank you
Padilla.
all, and see you hopefully very soon.
Thank you. Have a good time.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr.
You too,
Gulam.
sir.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you,
Thanks to all.
Sayed.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mohammed.